Ever feel like you're stuck in this like all or nothing kind of headspace?
Hmm.
Like everything's got to be either perfect or it's like a total disaster. No in between.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today, that whole black and white thinking thing, especially for folks on the spectrum, right?
Absolutely. Very common.
So we're going to unpack like why is this so common? What's going on in the brain
Oh,
there?
why?
And even more importantly, how can we like loosen those black and white blinders a little, make things a little more, flexible?
Yeah, for sure. Flexibility is key.
Because life, let's be real, life is messy, right?
Yep.
It's not always so clear cut.
It really isn't.
Our main source today is this really fascinating article from Cheap ABA. They've done some really great work on this.
They have. It's a good one.
So jump in whenever you're ready. What really stood out to me was this idea that for a lot of autistic people, this black and white thinking, it's not just a preference.
Right, right.
It's like a coping mechanism almost.
Exactly. It's like your brain's trying to make sense of a world that, let's be honest, can feel really chaotic.
Oh, for sure. Overwhelming, even.
Yeah. And so black and white thinking swoops in and says, hey, I can simplify that for you. Good over here, bad over there, nice and easy.
It's like your brain handing you a pair of noise-canceling headphones in a crowded room, right? Makes sense.
Exactly. Less noise, less anxiety,
Hmm.
at least for a bit, right?
In the short term, yeah. And our source even points that out, that this simplification can actually be helpful sometimes.
It can be. When you're constantly bombarded with sensory input or, trying to navigate social situations that can feel like a minefield,
Hmm.
black and white thinking offers a sense of control,
Hmm.
a way to create order out of all that chaos. This is safe. This is not safe.
It's comforting, that clarity.
Exactly. And comfort, especially when you thrive on routine and structure,
Hmm.
that predictability. Well, it makes sense why this kind of thinking would be appealing.
It's like having that rule book, right? In a world that often feels like it's making up the rules as it goes.
Exactly. But, as with most things, there is a flip side.
Oh, there's always a flip side.
There is. That need for absolute certainty, while comforting at the moment, it can actually become a roadblock to growth and adaptability down the road.
Yeah, I can see that. So we're good in the short term, but long term, maybe not so much.
Right. And our source from Cheap ABA,
Mm-hmm.
they highlight some challenges that I think really resonate here, especially for those of us on the spectrum.
Let's hear them. What kind of challenges?
Well, one of the biggest ones is that it can make it really hard to deal with change, or uncertainty.
Right. Because if you're wired for either, any little change must feel like
Like a huge deal, yeah.
exactly like your whole world's getting flipped upside down.
It can feel that way, absolutely.
And our source mentioned that this black and white thinking, it can also make emotions way more intense.
Oh, absolutely. It's connected, right?
Is that tied to the uncertainty thing, you think?
Totally.
Yeah.
Because say you have a setback. Something doesn't go as planned
Which, let's be real, happens all the time. Life, right?
all the time. Exactly. But instead of, okay, that didn't work out,
Yeah.
what can we learn? It's like, it's a disaster. I'm a
Yeah.
failure.
Exactly. Total meltdown mode.
No wonder our source was saying this can really affect relationships.
Oh, big time. Because think about it, social stuff, it's all nuance, right? All those gray areas we were talking about.
And black and white thinking just wants to.
Simplify it. Put it in a box.
Exactly. Which I guess it makes sense why that would lead to some misunderstandings.
Oh, definitely. Conflicts, even.
Yeah, because if you can't see the other person's perspective,
Because you've already decided it's good or bad, right or wrong.
you're stuck. It's like that time I was working on this project, right? And one of my teammates, they gave me this suggestion.
Okay, yeah.
And I swear I took it as criticism. Like they hated my ideas. The whole thing was doomed.
Oh, no.
I know. But looking back, they were just trying to be helpful,
Yeah.
offering a different view.
It's so easy to miss that nuance, though. It really is. But that's what we're trying to do, right? Get better at seeing the shades of gray.
Exactly. And the good news is our brains are pretty adaptable, right?
There's hope for us yet.
There is. And the Cheap ABA article, they actually give some really practical strategies. Like one that stood out to me was this idea of, and I know it sounds kind of jargony, but cognitive restructuring.
Cognitive what now? That sounds intense, like brain surgery or something?
No, nothing like that. It's actually way simpler than it sounds.
Okay, good. Because I'm not sure I'm up for brain surgery today.
It's really just about like arguing with your own thoughts,
Yeah.
learning to challenge those automatic, black and white thoughts and choosing a more balanced perspective.
So next time my brain goes into Project's Doomed mode,
You hit the pause button
hit the pause button.
and say, hold on a second. Is there another way to look at this? What if it's not a disaster?
I like that. Hitting the pause button. So it's not about like ignoring those thoughts completely.
No, no, because they're going to pop up, right? It's more about what you do after.
Choosing a different path.
Exactly. And the more you practice, the easier it gets. It's like building a muscle.
Mm.
And another great tool, and this one might sound a little woo-woo, but stick with me,
Okay, you got me. Hit me with the woo-woo.
mindfulness.
Mindfulness. Okay, yeah, that's one of those words, right? Gets thrown around a lot. But what does it actually like, what does it even mean?
I know, right? It can sound kind of vague,
Yeah, a little bit.
but at its core, it's about paying attention, like really tuning in to your thoughts and feelings right now, in this moment, but without judging them.
So not like, ugh, get out of your thoughts, you're being annoying.
Exactly, more like, interesting. Look at those thoughts just hanging out there.
Just noticing them, like those clouds everyone's always telling you to watch.
Yeah, exactly. And just like those clouds, those thoughts, they'll drift away eventually.
They come, they go.
They do.
Yeah.
And there's some really simple things you can try. Our source talked about meditation.
Yeah, meditation. Okay.
And that doesn't have to be anything fancy.
Mm-hmm.
Just taking a few minutes, focusing on your breath maybe.
Just breathe.
Yeah. There are even guided meditations. Could be worth a try, just to kind of dip your toes in.
So it's like a mental reset button, almost, when that black and white thinking kicks in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You step back from those thoughts for a second, give yourself some space, and then you get to choose a different perspective.
Speaking of different perspectives, what about that exposure to nuance thing? That really stuck with me.
Yeah, that's a big one,
Yeah.
especially for folks who, like that routine, that predictability.
Because, let's face it, trying new things, different perspectives, that can be a
Uncomfortable.
little bit sometimes.
Yeah.
But I think it's so important.
Oh, it's huge. It's how we challenge those black and white assumptions, by actually going out and experiencing those gray areas.
Right. It's like you could watch a documentary about a different culture. Or maybe even just like have a conversation with someone who has totally different opinions than you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it can be tough, but
Oh, it's worth it.
it is. Because you know what? You might learn something.
Always learning. And you know what else really helps? Having someone there to like support you through it all.
Oh, 100%. That's so key.
Right. Like having that safe space, whether it's a therapist or a friend or a group,
There's someone who gets it.
someone to talk to, because it's not easy changing these thought patterns.
It's not, but it's definitely possible.
It is. It's a journey.
One step at a time.
And remember, you don't have to walk it alone. So as we wrap up this deep dive, think about this. What's one little thing, one tiny step you can take this week to just nudge yourself a little bit outside that comfort zone?
Love that.
Maybe you try a quick mindfulness exercise like we were talking about. Or, you strike up a conversation with someone you don't agree with on everything. Or, hey, maybe you just notice those black and white thoughts popping up. And instead of freaking out,
Just let them be.
exactly. Remember, embracing those gray areas. It's a journey, not a race, right? And every step, no matter how small, it's a victory. So keep exploring, keep learning, and until next time, everyone.